In a cartoon, should the story be optional? Should we, as an audience, find it acceptable for there to be a narrative where little more occurs than a few gags and sequences of events? If you're the writers of the SpongeBob episode Laundro-Madness, the answer is a resounding yes. And I have to say, I disagree. Chapter 1. Laundro-Madness. The plot of Laundro-Madness, not story, plot, is that Squidward gets ink on his shirt, so he has to take it to the laundromat where hijinks ensue. Kind of a tangent, but I think it's so crazy that they actually revisit The Wash, considering that location debuted in Midlife Crustacean, a banned episode, which I did a video on, by the way, link in the description. Kind of funny that the team is aware that even though this episode is banned, most older viewers of the show would still remember it and find the reference meaningful. Anyway, while at the laundromat, there are a bunch of gags that revolve around Bikini Bottom residents. Sandy using her suit as a laundry machine, Larry arm wrestling a cloud of bad smells, the Nosferatu assistant guy shrinking his skin because it was actually dry clean only, etc, etc, etc. Look, all these moments got at least a small chuckle out of me, but I want to pose a question. If we removed all of these little bits and only focused on the parts of the episode where Squidward was dealing with his stain, what would change? If you look at the episode from purely a plot perspective, nothing would change. Now, if you look at it from an entertainment perspective, then these moments succeed, right? They're entertaining. I'm entertained looking at the bits. Who cares? It gave me a little ha ha ha, so it's fine. If this is your perspective, I do want to pose a question. In other episodes, where each and every bit is contingent to the main plot, such as, say, an episode like the Fry Cook games, where everything that happens is related to the plot of SpongeBob and Patrick competing in the games themselves. Don't the bits in that episode land just a little better, and as such, are more entertaining than these more disconnected bits in Laundro-Madness? This is why I think the Fry Cook game succeeds more as a bit-heavy episode. The early bits establish the gravitas of the events, then the story is set with SpongeBob and Patrick's rivalry, then we get more Fry Cook games related bits that are not only funny on their own, but compound on the already established story and help lead us into the climax of the episode. Look me in the face and say that that kind of episode structure works just as well as let's have some disconnected jokes. But how could Laundro-Madness have connected these bits to its story? Well, first off, it would need to have a story in the first place, because from what I can see, Laundro-Madness completely lacks a story at all. Chapter 2. Defining story. So, what do I mean when I say that Laundro-Madness has no story? Well, in order to understand what I mean, we are going to have to define what a story is and why I don't think this episode meets my definition. So, if you define story literally as a recounting of events, then yeah, sure, this episode has a story. But I believe that it is important to hold things like TV show episodes and movies to a higher standard. When I say the word story in regards to such a creative work, what I am talking about is how the creative work conveys deeper themes and perspective to the audience beyond the surface level recounting of events. So when you hear me use the word story in this video and all of my others, that is what I am talking about. So with all that in mind, what is the theme of Laundro-Madness? Nothing. What perspectives are challenged or reaffirmed throughout the episode's runtime? None whatsoever. What sort of life lessons does the episode teach? Nada. Squidward has a stain, he gets it off. That's it. There's this evil laundry machine that wreaks havoc and it gets destroyed. Hooray. But that's it. It's just things happening. Sure, the episode has a lot of things that you would see in a typical cartoon story. A character, Squidward, has a problem and encounters issues in trying to fix that problem. But Squidward's stain on his shirt lacks the emotional weight needed to properly hold my attention as an audience member. Why should I care about this stain? Did you care when you watched the episode? No, seriously, be honest with me. Is this really enough for you? Guy gets a stain on his shirt? Really? If you were in the same situation as Squidward, why would this matter to you? Well, it only would matter to you if there was something deeper that the stain would get in the way of. Just needing to clean the shirt is not enough. That's not a story. A stain on your shirt would matter if you, say, needed it for a job interview because it would be representative of your current financial and social situation. Sure, the recounting of events is the same as it would be in Laundro-Madness, have problem, fix problem, but if the shirt was needed for a job interview, now you have a story. Now the stain represents a barrier to you getting what you want. Compare this stain plot to another episode of the show where a character has something wrong wrong with them that they need to fix. Something smells. In the episode, people keep avoiding SpongeBob. We as the audience know that it's because his breath stinks, but he doesn't, so he assumes that it's because he's ugly. Like Laundro-Madness, Something Smells has a character afflicted with something negative that they have to deal with throughout the episode, but because SpongeBob's affliction is directly tied to an insecurity, we, as the audience, have a much more emotional response to this affliction and are more invested in seeing the protagonist overcome it. Squidward's stain, on the other hand, is not tied to anything deeper about him. It's just a stain, a minor inconvenience, and good stories actually aren't about minor inconveniences. They never were, and they never will be. A minor inconvenience can only go so far as the major conflict that the minor inconvenience represents. There's another element of Laundro-Madness's plot that I need to talk about: the laundry machine robot. So Plankton puts a bunch of his evil scientist stuff in a washing machine, and it turns into an evil robot that attacks everyone. This adds a little more stakes to the episode, but it completely falls flat because, like Squidward's stain, the robot represents nothing more than dangerous thing that will hurt you. Compare the threat of the robot washing machine in this episode to the threat of the Alaskan bullworm in Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm. So the Alaskan bullworm is also a dangerous thing that will hurt you, but the story of the episode is not actually about dealing with it. The story is really about Sandy being too overly confident in believing that she can save the town on her own, which puts her life in danger. The threat is not the Alaskan bullworm. The threat is Sandy's own ego. Fighting the Alaskan bullworm is the recounting of events. Sandy's character arc is the story. In contrast, the evil laundry machine in Laundro-Madness isn't used for anything deeper than the recounting of events. There's a dangerous thing gets neutralized, no one learns anything, it's not a story. I think what was maybe the most insulting part of this episode was where this guy looks to the camera and says,
"I think we all learned a lesson here today."
What lesson? Is this supposed to be a joke about how the episode lacked a lesson? That doesn't make up for it, you know. There's a similar kind of joke present at the end of The Sponge Who Could Fly, where SpongeBob says this:
"You taught me a valuable lesson, although I'm not quite sure what it was."
But this line works because that episode actually did have a lesson. It was just delivered in a silly way, and this line points that out, but it still works as a joke because the episode had an actual story. I believe that this is bad writing. I think that there should not be episodes of television shows or movies that lack these things, and I believe that not because it's less entertaining when they lack these things, though it certainly is. I believe in this principle strongly because TV show episodes and movies should serve a larger purpose to broader culture and society beyond simply being entertaining. If you think about it, there is no difference between watching an episode like Laundro-Madness and watching, say, those TikTok videos where someone cuts soap. Seriously, no difference beyond the superficial. Maybe Laundro-Madness might make you laugh and you get to look at familiar SpongeBob characters, but at the end of the day, something like Laundro-Madness is no better than videos of bottles breaking or Subway Surfer footage. It's just a way to kill time. But some of the other episodes I've talked about in comparison, while they also take up 11 minutes of your time with quirky visuals and funny jokes, there's something deeper in all of these episodes that I think is beneficial on both a personal and social level. The Fry Cook Games challenges us to think about the nature of competition and how it can affect friendship. Something Smells challenges us to think about how we're perceived by others based on superficial externalities and how we can emotionally deal with that. Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm challenges us to think about when is the right time to stand up and be the hero in our own lives. Even The Sponge Who Could Fly, a much less popular episode, challenges us to think about our own big dreams and how they might be difficult to manage if achieved. Keep in mind, these are episodes that are meant for children. I viewed all of these episodes when I was younger than 5 years old, and whether or not I deeply understood these themes then, or if I didn't really understand them until I was older, doesn't really matter. What matters is that these themes are present in these episodes that have been viewed by millions. What matters is that there is social value in thinking about the lessons they impart. Now, if you look at all the movies and TV show episodes ever made, a vast majority of them fall into the camp of actually having a meaningful story where things like Laundro-Madness are much more scarce. The reason they can even get away with something like Laundro-Madness is that SpongeBob earned the respect of its audience by telling actual stories, by the way, and is such a cultural zeitgeist that people will watch the show based on name recognition alone. Think an indie show could get away with this? Not a chance. And I find it quite disappointing not only that the SpongeBob writers would betray this trust that is built up by its audience from those deeper stories it told in its past, but that it would contribute to the normalization of creative works like this lacking stories. But I've been doing a lot of classic SpongeBob good, modern SpongeBob bad, and I do want to acknowledge that plenty of modern SpongeBob episodes still have stories. Great stories, but while a good story is not guaranteed in modern SpongeBob, every classic SpongeBob episode has a story. Or does it? Chapter 3. The Krusty Krab Training Video. The Krusty Krab Training Video is an episode that revolves around a training video for the Krusty Krab. Despite it being one of my favorite episodes of the series, it has no story. Except it totally does. I lied. The Krusty Krab training video does contain what I would consider to be a story, but I bet a lot of you believed me just now when I said it didn't have a story. And if you didn't believe me, if you knew that this episode had a story, well, good noodle star for you seeing through my ruse. The story of the Krusty Krab training video is that of SpongeBob, portrayed in the episode as a new employee, wanting to learn the Krabby Patty secret formula, and at the end of the episode, after going through the training, achieving that goal. What is the theme? Discipline. What perspectives are challenged? Being undisciplined, as shown through Squidward. What perspectives are reaffirmed? SpongeBob's sense of discipline. What is the lesson of the episode? Be confident and determined like SpongeBob, and you will succeed. And beyond all of this, the satirical nature of the corporatized training video adds a layer of nuance to this story by criticizing the corporate culture in which the story takes place.
Mr. Krabs, can I have a raise?
No.
But you might be thinking, sure, Krusty Krab training video has this story, but it's mostly just a bunch of bits, right? In that way, it's not too different from Laundro-Madness.
You right? Wrong.
While not every bit in Krusty Krab training video is directly tied to SpongeBob learning how to make a Krabby Patty, they do contribute to the overall story by thematically setting the stage of the story. Take, for example, these early moments in the episode that mythologize the creation of the Krusty Krab. While on the surface, this looks like nothing more than a series of gags relating to Mr. Krabs being cheap, the entire sequence serves to elevate the Krusty Krab as a place that is special, and thus making us as the audience want to see SpongeBob learn to make that Krabby Patty. It contributes to the way we feel at the end of the episode. So, while we as the audience may not even be aware that the Krusty Krab training video has a story, if you believed me at the beginning of this section when I said it didn't, well, it doesn't actually matter if the audience recognizes the story. What matters is that the story is there. Krusty Krab training video definitely has a smaller emphasis on story as opposed to just about every other classic SpongeBob episode. But because the writers of this episodes are such masters of storytelling, they were able to subvert the story and create something beautiful within the confines of a satirical training video. That taught us a lesson about being disciplined, made fun of corporate business practices, and gave us a boatload of laughs all along the way. This brings me back to Laundro-Madness. Really, let's look at these episodes side by side. Among the vast majority of the population, which episode do you think is actually going to remain in people's minds? If you think for a moment that there's not a meaningful comparison, that both episodes have the same level of validity, you must be intentionally sticking your head in the sand. Chapter 4. Why defend bad art? So I've been making these videos for a little while now, and I really do love engaging with my comment section. I really do appreciate a lot of the positive feedback that I get on just about every video I do. But something that stands out to me are some of the dissenters. Look, I know it's a part of being a YouTuber that you're gonna get people who disagree with you, but I do find it outright baffling how much some individuals want to defend bad art. So to those of you out there that think it can be optional for an episode of a TV show or a movie to lack a story, that think it's okay that episodes like Laundro-Madness exist, why do you think that? Keep in mind that if Laundro-Madness or anything else like it had a story, all of the elements that you may have liked about it, the characters, the comedy, the action, would all still be present. I'm not advocating for removing anything from these episodes. I'm advocating for deeper themes and a meaningful story to be present alongside these other fun elements. So when you comment something like, because it's fun, or, oh, it's fun, oh, it's just a show for kids, keep in mind, I'm not getting rid of any of that. I just want it to be better. With that in mind, what do you feel like you would lose if story was present? See, it is my worldview that every movie or episode of a TV show that we watch should be expected to have a story. And if a movie or TV show lacks a story, it should be criticized to the point where the writers behind these movies and TV shows will be incentivized to always include a story. I believe that this is important and necessary because a higher abundance of stories with deeper themes and lessons lead to a more thoughtful population, which leads us to being better equipped to deal with social problems. And the fact that many stories do not include deeper themes and lessons, while that is certainly not the only root cause of all of our problems, it is a contributor to a more shallow and apathetic populace. So that's my worldview, that deeper stories are a social positive and that TV show and movie writers making sure their works have deeper stories doesn't negatively impact their entertainment value. We get something out of it and we lose nothing. I don't really see how anyone could disagree with that, but if you do, please leave your well thought out and respectful counter argument in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you want to support the channel, I've got a Patreon as well as channel memberships. Also, check out my gaming channel. I've done some videos about the SpongeBob video games over there, like this one about the SpongeBob movie GBA game and how it compares to the film. You should really check it